So I know that we are your last big city stop on this book tour.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you save the best for last?
Yes, of course. I mean, I asked to be in Chicago on my last day of the tour.
Yeah.
I started with Madison, Wisconsin. Actually, Cleveland, Madison, Wisconsin, Toronto, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then Chicago. Yeah.
I know you're a man that likes to live in the moment because of your philosophies. How does it make you feel to go to these book tour stops and see all the faces that come out to see you and purchase your book?
Well, it feels good to see more than 25 people. and I'm saying that really, I mean, sincerely, because it's my 8th book. And many years ago, I was pretty well known in my street and in New York and as the chef of Le Bernardin. But I did a book called Le Bernardin Seafood 4-star Simplicity, I'm sorry. And I went on a tour and I thought I would have a great audience everywhere. And I went to Atlanta for my first stop and I saw 4 people. And that was the beginning of an amazing tour where I ended up in San Francisco with 20 people. So tonight, for me, it's like glorious.
So starting off with just those 4 people to 20 people on that first book tour to now, thinking about the trajectory of your life, you're not a chef that was seeking celebrity fame. You're a chef that it sort of found you. When you're thinking about your life as a whole and where you are now, how do you feel about it?
Well, I feel pretty lucky, of course, but I came into the field of cooking because I wanted to eat well. I'm starting by saying I wanted to eat well because when I was a little kid, I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and moving on. I was always in the kitchen of my grandmother's and my mother. And I was there not to cook, but to eat. And luckily, they were very, very good cooks. And they would let me test all the time, not touch, because they didn't want me to mess up the kitchen. But then at age 10, 11, and moving on, I started to cook a little bit, and I really developed the passion for cooking. And I was a very bad student in terms of grades. I was reading cookbooks at home instead of studying. And the more you read cookbooks, and the more you have mediocre grades. And at 15 years old, I ended up in the principal office with Mom. And he said, it's the end for your son. He cannot go further in the school. He has to go to a vocational school or find a job. And I went to culinary school. That was my dream. And it was difficult to go to culinary school because of my poor grades. But the principal had a friend, and long story short, I ended up in culinary school. That was the beginning.
So one grandmother from Provence,
Yes.
one grandmother that is Italian.
Yes.
Your mother was a very accomplished chef.
Yes.
At what point did they take you seriously? You said around 10 years old. How did you convince them that you could actually do some things in the kitchen versus just make a mess?
So I will go to the market with them, and they will go shopping for the day or for the meal, and I will come back and start to say, do you want me to peel the potatoes? Or do you want me to peel the garlic? Or of course they want me to peel the garlic. That was the beginning, and I moved slowly but surely into different tasks, except pastry. I'm a very lousy pastry chef. As much as I love desserts, I cannot bake anything. I'm too ADD. So I start, and then suddenly I move into something else. And as you know, in pastry, you have to be very precise, and my desserts are lousy. And during COVID, actually, I really realized that my desserts were lousy when the family asked me to stop doing desserts. so that was, yeah.
So you were raised by a home of very strong women all around you. because
Yes.
your father passed away when you were 11.
Yes.
Do you think that because of that, all these women that were cooking in the kitchen, do you think that's why maybe you became a chef?
Well, they definitely developed in me passion, like I said, for eating good food. And to be precise, one of my grandmother was from northern Italy. She was Italian, and the other one was from Provence. And they were cooking soul food from their own country or region. And my mother was fascinated by the chefs that created Nouvelle Cuisine in the 70s. So I'm speaking about Paul Bocuse and all that generation of chefs. And I was exposed to soul food from Italy and Provence. And then my mother was a businesswoman. She was not a chef, but she cooked, I mean, incredible food. And she had the passion for creating an experience for the family. And therefore, between lunch and dinner, we will eat on a different tablecloth, different pattern of china, different flower arrangement, and she will cook appetizer, main course, bring the cheese and dessert that she will bake every day, and it will be different from lunch to dinner. So I thought every kid in the world was eating like me, but I was very lucky to be exposed to soul food, which is more rustic, but really has a lot of flavors, and then exposed to that refinement. And I started to develop the love for the refinement and the soul food. But when I will have good grades, which never happened, so when it will be my Christmas gift or my birthday gift, my parents will ask me, what do you want? And I will say, I want to go to that restaurant. I want to taste the food of that chef, and so on. And that was my reward.
Were your parents worried about you when you were asking for this?
No, actually, no, my mother was very supportive. She had no choice because, again, my bad grades. But she was, she was very supportive of me choosing the career of becoming a chef. Because in France, when I started in the 80s, chefs were very respected. There was no such a thing as celebrity chefs on TV, like we can see today on many networks. But chefs were very, very respected in France, and they were very successful as well. So for mom, was like, yeah, my son's going to maybe become one of those great chefs.
Well, your mom sounded like she had a lot of artistry and style. Wasn't she in fashion
She was
business?
in fashion.
Yeah.
My mother was in fashion for a long time. She had many stores, and she was in haute couture, and
Yes.
and she
Maybe
was.
that, trick percolated down to you somehow. I don't know.
If she would see me with those shoes and those pants, wouldn't fly tonight.
So you mentioned you loved to eat as a child, and that was what drew you to cooking. Can you talk to us about your first seafood memory, since this is a seafood book?
First seafood memories. As a cook or
As a child?
As a child?
Yeah.
Oysters.
Oh, oysters.
Oysters for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was, for me, like fascinating. I loved the way they were opening the oysters, and then for me it was like almost like a daring thing. I was like, you see, I can eat it. Give me another one. So I remember eating oysters, and then Dover sole. It's a fish that I will eat frequently, and it's a very delicious fish, very expensive. I didn't know it was expensive.
Right.
But I will ask always for Dover sole.
I also read something about a fish soup that your grandmother would make, and maybe a crab souffle that your mother would make.
Yes, the crab souffle, it's something that I don't even dare to make. It's so challenging.
Yeah.
But my mother was making a crab souffle that was really, really amazing. And technically, it's very difficult because the crab is heavy, and the souffle, it's basically egg whites and egg yolk, and to make the souffle rise and the crab not to be in the bottom, good luck.
When you think about the seafood that you had in your youth, or versus the seafood you have accessibility to now, of course you have accessibility to the best in the world, but overall, do you think it's as good?
In terms of quality,
Yes, in terms of,
I always had great seafood.
yeah.
And at home, because we were living on the coast most of my childhood. And then when I worked in a restaurant, I went straight up to the best restaurants that existed in France at the time. I went to La Tour d'Argent, which was in 1982, they were celebrating their 400-year anniversary. And they were specialized in ducks, but I was in a fish station. So I didn't learn much about ducks. And then I moved to Jamin, which was the restaurant of Joël Robuchon. Joël Robuchon was considered at the time one of the two best chefs in the galaxy. It was Freddy Girardet in Switzerland and him. And it was a cult. And we had the best seafood. I mean, I had never seen seafood like that in this place. Of course, I ended up in a fish station. And then I asked to move. After 3 years with him, I wanted to travel the world, and I asked him to send me somewhere. And he sent me to Washington, D.C. to work with a chef, Jean-Louis Paladin. He was the chef of the Watergate Hotel, famous for something else. But he was brilliant, extremely creative, and he was the king of game. He loved game. But I was on a fish station. And then I did a brief stint with David Boulay in New York. Very, very brief. Almost too brief. But I was in a fish station as well. And my last fish station was Le Bernardin, which is a gigantic fish station, is a restaurant dedicated to seafood since 1991.
Yes. And you have been in the same place there since 1991 in an industry that is known for high turnover at every level, and you know, in an environment where it's always about novelty and pushing to the next big thing or what's the next big trend. Why did you decide, I'm going to stay put? I'm going to stay here.
At Le Bernardin? Well, first of all, when I came at Le Bernardin, it was in 1991. It was on June 10, and it was 7:40 a.m. And I remember because I look at my watch, and I say, well, it's 7:40 a.m. And I felt something. I was like, this is going to be it's going to be important in my life. It's something here. I don't know what it is, but it's a special place because it's a special restaurant, but also it's going to, I don't know, I have a sixth sense about it. And I worked with Gilbert Lecause, who was the chef owner of the restaurant, very well respected, doing great food. 3 years later, he passed away, and his sister, who was his partner, asked me to join her and become her partner. And in 1994, I took full responsibility of the kitchen. And until today, I'm partner with her at Le Bernardin, and we are living the dream, really.
Yes. Still a great partnership between the two of you.
Which is very rare.
Very rare. That's another reason why there's a lot of turnover in the industry. You hear about even the 7-year itch when it comes to marriage. So when we think about your longevity and this relationship at Le Bernardin, 4 stars, New York Times, all 5 times you've been reviewed.
Yes.
3 Michelin stars since 2005.
Yes.
To be able to keep that competitive edge walking into the same doors every day. I know that you walk to the restaurant, you walk through Central Park. You're a man of routine, and you do these same things every day. But then how do you maintain keeping at that highest of levels?
Well, it's passion and cooking wisdom that I have accumulated over the years. But I never think about the rewards. I never think about the stars. I never think about being in the lists of whatever. I think about going to work and being with the team and interacting with them and creating and cooking and creating an experience for our clients and interacting with the entire team actually and so on. And I think when you are focused like that, you're not distracted by potentially losing a star or thinking about rewards. And if I may make an analogy here, I would say it's like an actor, right? So let's suppose you're an actor and you are going to a movie and you start to think about the Oscar. You're not going to be a good acting, right, that day. I mean, it's going to be like, you're going to be distracted. You're going to be like, oh, if I could get an Oscar, wow, it would be fantastic. You will never get the Oscar. But if you go and you're an actor and you go into the role of the acting and you are in giving your best, maybe you will get an award. I don't know. So to me, I see it like that. I'm working very hard because I love it, and it's my lifestyle, it's my passion. And then we celebrate the rewards because it's very important to celebrate when you have rewards. You celebrate your luck and you celebrate with the team, and it's saying thank you to the team as well. And then the day after, you forget about it and you start again to work hard. And I think it's very sane to be like that.
I know for you, it's very much about the journey of life and being present in those moments on the journey.
Yes.
You're an extraordinary person, so it makes sense that you're able to kind of maintain that status within yourself. But as anyone in the audience knows, managing other people is a totally different thing. How are you able to inspire your team to kind of hold the same standards that you do, and especially through the vehicles of kindness, perhaps a little bit different than maybe other chefs?
Kindness, it's a word that is in my mind every day. Being kind with the team, being kind with actually everybody. But when I started my career as a chef, I was not kind. Because when I was in France, I was educated what they call the old-fashioned way. And the old-fashioned way was to humiliate, the chef would humiliate the cooks or the employees. It was verbal abuse, physical abuse in a sense that they will beat you or kick you in the butt or throw tantrums and throw plates on the floor and scare you and things like that. And it was a culture at that time that was glorifying anger. And the chefs was always right, and those chefs were having tantrums, and we were like basically scared of them, and it was supposedly like glorious. I didn't like it, I have to tell you. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I had a chef when I was in training in my second year of culinary school. He was a beast, and he scared us so much because he was screaming at us so much, and he was punishing us, and he was throwing the plates and doing all the things like that. And once I find myself running around the stove, but he was too big, so I was going faster. And then one day he said to me, this afternoon you're going to be punished. You're going to break down some ducks, and we receive 100 ducks. And it was not a fancy restaurant. He said, you're going to freeze the breast and we're going to confit the legs. I did it. 3 days later, he asked me to go get one breast. So I went downstairs to the freezer, but I froze all the breasts together in one bag. So it was impossible to get one breast. We need a hammer and a screwdriver. So my punishment was to clean the broiler. And the broiler was so dirty because I swear they never cleaned that broiler in the history of that broiler. And he said, do not use water. You do it, no water. I was like, no water, are you kidding? So he left for the afternoon break, and I was responsible for cleaning, I took the, how you call it, high pressure, like pressure washer, right? Pressure washer, and let's go, pressure washer, and the soap and everything. He came back, squeaky clean. He turned the button, got electrified, fell on the floor because it was an electric broiler.
Oh my gosh, was he okay?
For 5 minutes, he wasn't. and he didn't say a word to me. Nothing. Didn't speak to me for 3 days. That was my vengeance. But anyway, now I'm moving forward again. When I was starting at Le Bernardin as a chef, instead of learning the lessons for being abused, suddenly I was emulating some of my mentors. And I was abusive. I was screaming at them, at the staff in a dining room. I was miserable. They were miserable. They were quitting. And one day I was in my house, I was looking at the ceiling, it was very late at night, and I was tired. And I said, why am I miserable? And I had this kind of duh moment. I saw the light, basically. And I said, I'm wrong. I'm doing everything wrong. I cannot treat people like that. It's not me, and I shouldn't do that. It's no glory. And you cannot be happy to be angry. The brain doesn't process both at the same time. You're either way angry or you're happy. And I'm miserable because I'm angry. And the staff is scared. And from that day, I changed completely. That was in 1991, 1992. I changed. And from that day until today, I really promote a culture of respect in a kitchen. And I do not tolerate any abuse from anyone, any bad mood, behaviors, and so on. Of course, sometimes it happens. Someone flips. But in that case, you go after and you apologize on the front of the team, and it's okay. It's fine. We have our bad days, but we do that. Thank you. Thank you. But so in my life, other than being a chef, I'm very kind with people. I'm very kind to my family, and I'm very kind to my staff. And I shouldn't say to the staff, because they're not mine. Yeah. We work together. I'm very kind to everybody. And it makes my life simple and easy. And I go to work, I have a smile. I come back at home, I have a smile on my face.
Lovely.
Thank you.
You're a role model for so many chefs. You do practice Buddhism.
Yes.
And I've heard you mention that you are a content person.
Yes.
And a happy person,
yes.
As you just mentioned. But you also have this unequivocal, dogged pursuit of being precise and of maybe perfection in the restaurant?
Yes.
How does that coexist, contentment and pursuit of perfection?
Well, pursuit of perfection it's an interesting exercise because it's a mindset. So every day you come back and you're going to try to do better than yesterday. So what I do in the morning, I set my goals for the day at home. And then I go in my journey. And then at night I come back and I look at myself, and then physically I look at myself in a mirror, in the bathroom. And I'm like, did you do it today? It's always a little bit of a difference in between the morning goal and the result at the night. But it's a small difference. And sometimes I have a bad day, of course, like everybody else. Yeah. But I love searching for perfection. It's a great motivation, especially knowing that perfection doesn't exist. Oh. You never achieve perfection. It's very subjective anyway, but you will never achieve it. So I love that. And I don't know if you have seen the movie Jiro, Dream of Sushi. I mean, Giro now is 94, I think. He's still alive. That gentleman for 70 years is perfecting the cut of the sushi. And he's still not happy with it. And every day he's trying to do better and better and better.
But yet content with the journey of searching for it.
Yes, of course.
Ah, there we go. Get it now. You said it was finally time for you to write a cookbook on seafood because you felt that you finally knew a little bit about something about seafood, right? That's why the time is now?
I think, yes. Well, I wanted to do this. I have done, this is my 8th book, 7 cookbooks, 1 memoir. And I wanted to do Seafood Simple to help people to cook seafood without being intimidating and to love seafood. Because I hear a lot of people that I know well tell me, oh, it's intimidating. Oh, I had a bad experience. I don't think I like to cook seafood. Actually, I don't like to eat seafood.
Yes.
And I'm always asking the question, why? And everybody had a bad experience. They brought a piece of fish that was stinky, brought it home, cook it, the house stank. The fish was so fishy, the kids were mad. It was a disaster, it broke in the pan and so on. So I said, I have to do a book that will demystify cooking seafood in general. And cooking seafood starts with shopping. So we give a lot of tips in this book. How to shop, how to know when the seafood is fresh, the fish or the shellfish. It's no rocket science, I swear. And when you know about it, then you start already with a good base. Mm-hmm. So you go to the store. If the store is smelly, if your fish is smelly, you don't buy it. And it's as simple as that. Then there's many tricks that we give, of course, much more than just smelling the fish.
I thought it was telling that the cover of the cookbook is of you seasoning the filet. It's you salting it.
Yes.
Which I thought, well, that's an interesting choice. Are you saying that is perhaps the fundamental? Is that the most important, most basic? You must not skip that step?
Yes. Well, so my approach was logical. You purchase the fish, you bring it home. So we teach you how to storage it at home for less than 24 hours. If not, you freeze it. It's not perfect, but it's okay. And then what else do you do? The first thing you do, you season the fish. And sometimes I look at TV programs that are dedicated to cooking, not too many times because it reminds me of The Office. But I see the chef like bang, bang from
but
here.
You don't like the Salt Bay. You don't like that Salt Bay guy.
I didn't mention any names, but but if you season from here, you're not precise, right? I mean, if I'm seasoning here like that, it's not. If I'm too close, it's I cannot see what I'm doing. If my hands are wet or dirty, the salt stick to my hands. I'm not doing a good job. So we dedicated an entire page in this book on seasoning the fish, which is very important. And then we broke down the book into chapters and techniques that will enhance and make the species that you are cooking really the star of the plate. Mm-hmm. So because seafood is not all the same. A lobster, as we know, is very different than an oyster, which is very different than a fillet of fish. And in a fish family, a tuna is very different than a halibut and so on. And therefore, some techniques really enhance the halibut or the tuna or the oyster, and some techniques are not helpful. So we divided the book in all those different chapters, starting with curing, marinating, making ceviches if you like raw fish and you find fresh fish, and then steaming and boiling and broiling and baking and sautéing and even preserving in a jar. You buy tuna, you preserve it in olive oil. It's very simple. I mean, that's ultra simple. And I think this book is really almost idiot-proof in terms of results.
Oh.
You really have to not listen to the book to not make it.
He's pleading with us up here. Can you tell?
No, because I'm very passionate about. I mean, it took us 4 years to make it. Of course, I'm passionate.
Was it a purposeful decision that you only have one picture of yourself in here, your face? There's only one on page 269.
I have my face in it?
That's it. One tiny little photo. I will show it to you. 269.
Because usually
all the way in the back.
I don't want my pictures.
Yes,
because
think you don't.
It's not about me and my face. It's about the process of cooking.
That's it. That's the only photo of him in the cookbook.
I'm smelling the fish.
I looked through every page of this book. But these are a lot of tutorials, a lot of the pictures, but it's your hands though, right?
Not all the time.
Right.
Because I wanted to make sure that we were using all the talents that we have in the kitchen.
Okay.
And it for them was a little bit of a reward saying, hey, listen, you're going to have your hands in the book.
Even folds out. See, I just want you to know.
But on the cover is my hands.
Yes.
And when we open oysters, some of the tasks are my hands, and then some of the tasks are from some of the employees.
Well, I do think that this is approachable. There's even a recipe that you just buy the store-bought wonton wrappers. So I was shocked. You didn't even say we had to make them. There's fish fingers with ketchup.
So that was a joke.
Oh.
No, I want to make sure you know it was a joke. It's true. Because one day we were photographing the book, and then I started to speak about when my son was young and what I was doing for him, and how frustrated I was with one aspect of what he was doing. I'm going to say it in a minute. So I explained, I was doing fish fingers with broccoli because we were trying to give him eat green vegetables. He liked broccoli. He was 5 years old, but he would put ketchup on it, on the fish. I mean, I was like, that kills me. But he was eating his fish and broccoli, so I was like, okay, go for the ketchup. And then we were joking, and I said, let's put it in a book. Oh, and of course, you notice it.
Yes, I did.
But it's a real joke. But the recipe works.
Yes. Now, fish tacos aren't a joke, though, right?
No, the fish tacos are real.
They're real. There's a strudel. You use aluminum foil. That's something that we all have in our house.
Yes.
I was surprised by that. There were also some recipes for sauces. I mean, La Bernardin is known for its sauces.
Yes.
A few sauces in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have some very good sauce. And again, sauce are not necessarily complicated to make. Mm-hmm. You just have to have a spoon with you, and you never double dip, but you have to taste and you work close to the flavors that you capture in a liquid, in a sauce. And then the sauce are not created to hide the seafood flavor. They are created, again, to enhance the flavor.
To elevate it.
To elevate everything, yeah.
So you've often said that being able to craft a sauce, something I think most Americans don't do. Am I right? I have a refrigerator full of condiments, but I don't really ever make a sauce at home. You've said that to be able to make a sauce is really to kind of take the craft of cooking into kind of an art form.
Yes. Yes. Cooking is a lot of craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. So you learn the knife skills, because nobody's born with the knife skills. So you have to learn, you have to cut yourself a little bit. And it's part of the process, and you burn yourself a little bit. And it's a lot of steps that are really purely craftsmanship. It's nothing about art into that process. But when you start to capture flavors into a liquid, that becomes art. It's a little bit, again, I'm going to make an analogy here, but notes of music do not exist, right? They're not tangible. You cannot touch the notes of music, but composers and musicians create some amazing melodies and songs, and it's all in the mind, and then they find a way to express it through instruments. Sauce, the flavors of a sauce do not exist. You cannot say, oh, let's put 1 ounce of rosemary flavor, and then we're going to put a teaspoon of garlic flavor, and then we're going to cook it, and it's going to be whatever you want. It's all here. And then you have to find a way to capture those flavors and make sure that they do not evolve the way they want. You have to control the flavors the way you want. Some flavors have the tendency to expand and destroy everything in the sauce. Some flavors have the tendency to collapse when you cook them. So I'm going to take an example. If you use acidity in a sauce, you're killing everything after 20 minutes. You killed all the subtleties of the subtle aspect of the sauce. If you use some herbs and you infuse them too much, same thing, they're going to collapse, it's going to become bitter. And really at the end, to give you an example of how complicated sauces are, sometimes you have 20 ingredients in it, and they have to be delicious from the beginning of the lunch to the end of the lunch, or the beginning of the night to the end of the night. If you make coffee at home, when you brew your coffee and it's very fresh, you have 1 ingredient. It tastes a certain way. If you go 2 hours later and you left it in a coffee maker, it's not the same, right? You come at night, it's really bad. And it's 1 ingredient and water. So imagine when we are creating sauce, all the work that you have to create and the imagination that comes in to have those flavors that, again, are not tangible.
You're a poet when you're speaking about sauce. I could listen to that for hours, all day.
I'm going to fall asleep soon.
I'm going to wrap up my portion of the interview in just a few minutes, which means now is the time to start thinking about what your questions for the great chef Eric Ripert is going to be. So we're going to have that coming up. We'll have about 10, 15 minutes of question time for you as well. So I did want to mention, because we were talking about sauces, your memoir, which I highly recommend for you all to read. Fascinating insight into kind of what makes you tick and how you ended up in America. It kind of stops at the point where you do arrive. But
at the point, no, it stops at the gate in Paris. I'm entering the plane.
Yes. So not even in America yet.
Because in America, whatever you say, you get a lawsuit. So I'm like, no. But I stopped in France.
But I mentioned it because...
I'm joking.
Not really. I mentioned the title because 32 Yolks was in reference to a sauce that you had to make. I think it was Sabayon or...
I was making a sauce hollandaise. And to make a sauce hollandaise, to be technical, you have to make a sabayon, which is like taking egg yolks, a bit of water, and then whisking until it becomes like very, very light, like a cloud. And then you incorporate butter and so on.
Yes.
But the first day that I was in La Tour d'Argent, my first job was to be, like I mentioned, in the fish station. So after 30 seconds, I cut my finger, cutting shallots, and I asked for a Band-Aid. Then the chef said to me, can you make an hollandaise sauce? And I said, yeah, of course. And I said, how many yolks? He said, 32 yolks. 32 yolks. The mass of 32 yolks is enormous. It's very heavy. I was skinny like that at the time. And so I started to whisk, and it was very hot, and I made scrambled eggs. So of course the chef was mad. Then he asked me to go find some chervil in a fridge. I didn't know what chervil was. So I was praying to find the chervil and not find another herb. But it took me basically 3 or 4 months to master that 32 yolks sabayon to make the hollandaise. And that was for me a turning point in my career, is when I said, now I can start to say I'm cooking. Until then, my scrambled eggs becoming slightly sabayonish were not perfect, but that day, those 32 yolks were mastered, and I was moving on, and I was confident in my career.
In an interesting way, your life has been about a lot of sauces, a lot of sauce over the course of your life.
By the way, if you didn't read 32 Yolks, when I wrote it, I thought it was like a comedy. And then when I read it, because for the final edit, I wanted to read it in one time to make sure that there was no repeats. And I realized I wrote a modern Les Miserables. So I was like, oh my God, this is intense.
I was going to ask you if you were going to pick up where 32 Yolks left off ever, do you think?
No.
Someone was clapping. Someone was excited about that idea.
No, because first of all, I never wanted to write my memoir.
Yeah, I heard the publisher had to hound you.
For 5 years, the publisher of Random House was really after me to write that memoir, and I thought I had nothing interesting to say and to write. And finally, after 5 years and a very nice offer, I started to think maybe if I had a story, and I said, I'm going to make a comedy. And again, it became intense. And I stopped at the plane. And whatever happened in America has been pretty well documented. And my professional life is all over the place in magazines and in terms of being documented. And then my private life is very private. I do not share with the media. I do not share with people that are not my friends what's happening in my life, just to protect my family. And therefore, it's no need to do a memoir. You just read the magazines and you get the story.
Well, there you go.
And you save money.
There you go. No questions about his personal life, okay? So now I'm going to hand it over because it is your turn to ask questions.
Great. So we have a few minutes to take questions, folks. So just keep your hands up, just like these folks. Myself and our house manager will be coming around with mics. Please keep it brief, state your name, and ask your question, and we'll get around to you as best we can. We'll start right here.
First of all, thank you for coming. I'm Meredith. You said that your passion for cooking was born out of your passion for eating well. So I wonder, when you come to Chicago, where you like to eat.
When I come to Chicago, I have a lot of friends and I go to many places. If I start to say one place, then everybody's going to be mad at me because I didn't say the other place. But I'm contemplating having a dinner maybe at Stephanie Izard restaurant. You know the girl and the goat? Yeah, okay. Just in case, I'm just saying. Well, I landed today, this afternoon. So I ate very quickly a pizza. That was delicious, by the way. Very close to where Stephanie has her restaurant.
They're relentless.
I don't remember the name. I would love to tell you the name, but I don't remember. And it was good.
We've got our next question right over there.
Oh, hi, Chef. My name is Cornell. I've asked this question of like some other famous chefs, and I just always ask them, did you ever think you would be here? Like, in terms of just being a famous chef, talking to all these people, and from when you were a boy till now, till when you came from France to here, just in general, would you ever have imagined yourself being basically one of the best chefs in the world? I asked this of Ferran, I've asked this of Redzepi, so on and so forth. I was just curious.
Thank you very much. I never thought I would speak English on the front of you. Because when I came to America, I didn't speak a word of English. But my entire life, from age 4 or 5, I wanted to become the chef that I am today. My dream was to be a chef in a beautiful restaurant with a beautiful kitchen all the equipment that is needed, with a team surrounding me, helping me to create the vision that I have, which is basically creating an experience for you that you desire. All my life, I had that vision, almost like putting all my mental energy into that tunnel, saying, this is what I want to become. I want to become that chef. So that chef today is Eric Ripert, the chef of Le Bernardin, but that was my motivation, not to become famous necessarily and be in magazines or on television or speak to you, although I'm very happy to speak to you. But my motivation was to be in a kitchen and really live my passion, which is the craftsmanship and the art of cooking and creating an experience for the clients.
Our next question is over here.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Fran, and you said about your mom's crab souffle, and that you're not going to touch that. Is there any dish of either of your grandmothers or your mother that you make today that they would be proud of you, that you've either progressed it or you've just hit it spot on?
Well, so my grandmother passed away a long time ago, but they were very proud. I was not necessarily the chef that I am today, but they were very proud of my itinerary in my industry, learning how to become a chef. And I was starting to cook with them when I was 18, 19 years old, and they were enjoying my cooking, or they made believe they were enjoying my cooking. My mother has come to Le Bernardin many times. She's a tough cookie. And couple of times, I remember like 20 years ago, she would say, you know, the rim of the plate is not very clean. So she came last year, I made sure the rim of the plate was clean. And she was very happy with her meal and very happy for her son and very proud of my trajectory in the industry. And again, nothing about the fame or what is perceived as fame, solely about what I have been able to do in the kitchen. So yes, mom is happy. Thank you.
In the balcony?
Hi, Chef. My name is Mary. Thank you so much for being here. My question is, because I'm very excited to read Seafood Simple, what is one recipe that you would recommend for someone who loves hosting and wants to create their own memories for friends and family?
Sure. So in Seafood Simple, like I mentioned before, we have all the techniques, sauteing and steaming and so on. I think if you are a beginner, even if you are a good chef, I think it's two techniques that will allow you to be relaxed and inviting many of your friends without stress. So assuming that you invite 6 people or 8 people and you want to cook fish for them, organize yourself in a kitchen, of course, but that is in a book as well. But broiling or baking is very simple as a technique. You take a sheet tray, you oil it, you put the fish well seasoned, the oven at the right temperature, 5-6 minutes, you check the doneness of the fish, and you cooked 8 perfect pieces of fish for 8 friends. You just plate it, add the garnish and the sauce that you have made already. No stress. So I will say baking and broiling. And by the way, you probably don't know that, but many years ago I did a series called Get Toasted. It's true, I know.
I know about it.
You can go on Hulu, it's still there. No, I'm sorry, on YouTube. And it was about cooking delicious meals in a toaster oven.
I saw you broil some shrimp.
Yes.
You like filleted them and you broiled them
Yes.
there. Yeah.
And because one day I came home and my wife was cooking for my son, and I said, "Oh my God, what are you doing in a toaster oven? Putting the halibut there? You're gonna?" She said, "You don't know anything. Look." And I look at the result. I was like, "Oh goodness, it's really good." So then I said, "I'm gonna do a series," and it was called "Get Toasted."
Our next question is right here.
I'm sorry.
Hi, Chef.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Dominique. My question for you is, with your massive influence around the world, if there was one type of fish that you would recommend people consume less of or consume more of to better the environment, what would it be?
Well, sustainability is key. And today we know that sustainability on Earth and in the ocean is essential for basically the future of humanity and the future of the planet and all the species that live on the planet. And therefore, you have to be very cautious about what you are consuming. We are lucky because in America, we have, first of all, the government is very proactive. And when they find a species that is under stress or on the verge of extinction, they really go after the fishermen and create quotas and space where they can catch the fish and give break to the fish and so on. This is not the case in every country in the world. But you have also for the consumer a couple of organizations that make a list year after year. So in the West Coast, the Monterey Bay Aquarium has a very prestigious list that help you and guide you to choose the species that are basically not on the verge of disappearing. And then you have NOAA. NOAA is a governmental agency that has a lot of money invested in boats and in technology and radars and you name it. And they know exactly what's happening with the stock of the fish. And if you go to NOAA list, again, it's a great guidance for you to know what to eat and not to eat.
Again, in the balcony.
Chef Ripert, thank you. My name's Jeremy. I'm actually more of a philosophical question. I'm curious, you mentioned before getting into Buddhism. I'm curious how you got into that and how you think that kind of impacts you even as you're sitting here today.
I discovered Buddhism when I came to America, actually. And at that time, the Dalai Lama received the Nobel Prize for Peace. And he made a speech, I think it's in Oslo. And I read the speech and I was fascinated by what he was saying in that speech. And I started to read books from him, and my mother was sending me books in French because I didn't speak English. And it has been progressive in my life. Buddhism has been had a very positive influence in my life. Today, I still study, and I wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning. I meditate, and I do my rituals and study. And I have a teacher once a week that is Nepali and Tibetan, and I'm very lucky for that. But the fact that I'm Buddhist doesn't mean anything. You could be a Muslim, you could be a Christian, you could be a Jewish person. It's all about universal good values. And we know what good values are. Do not steal, do not kill, do not make people miserable, do not do bad things in your life. You have a moral compass. We all have that. So for me, Buddhism is a way to practice and be reminded every day about those things. But again, my religion is, and I'm going to quote the Dalai Lama, so don't give me the credit, but my religion is compassion. And that's what it is.
Our final question is in the back.
Chef is someone who has classical training over many, many years and has maintained such a high level of quality. What motivates you forward? How do you look at Le Bernardin as it was and as it is now? And how has it grown based upon the level of knowledge of your guests even? You know, our culinary journey and knowledge in this country is crazy. How do you deal with that? And how does that motivate you to make your restaurant be current as well as trusted and valued?
Sure. So Le Bernardin was created in France in 1972, opened in New York in 1986, closed Paris, and in 1986 was a beautiful restaurant. And then the restaurant started to age. The decor I'm talking about. But the service evolved from a very formal French service. Suddenly it became much more relaxed, much more interactive. The cooking evolved tremendously, very fast. The cooking of the 1980s today, if we put it in a plate, looks old. And so what we did in 2000 and in 2014, we redid our dining room to update the dining room to the level of where the service was and where the food was. And in terms of food, the inspiration comes from experience. So I'm lucky, and the team is lucky to live in New York. New York is like Chicago. It's a big urban center with many people from all over the planet that are excelling and competing in a good way and showing their culture. And we learn techniques and new ingredients and new flavors every day. And then today we can travel. Even people on the budget can travel quite a bit. You can go to Asia it's not cheap, but it's not crazy prices. You can go to Europe, you can travel the US. So our cooking is based on experience. So when I go to Japan, I come back and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, Japan. And I control myself to stay a little bit French. But if I go to Korea, same thing. If I go to Italy, it's the same. Inspiration comes all the time. And then again, we learn from our French chefs new techniques, and it's always new flavors and new ingredients. So the cooking is evolving and evolving and evolving. And I don't think about the future of Le Bernardin. I live the future of Le Bernardin on a daily basis with the team. And then when I look at the decor, I'm like, it's time to change again. And the service too, same thing. We used to have that very formal, stiff service where the waiters were not supposed to interact with the client. Not because they were arrogant, that was a perception from the clients. But in France, the client is king. We're not supposed to disturb the experience of the client. Well, here and at Le Bernardin, we want to enhance your experience. So we interact with you until we find out what is your experience, not by asking you, what are you doing here? But, if you see a couple coming and they're kissing and they're really, together, well, it's a certain experience they're looking for. If someone is coming with 6 business people and they exchange papers at the table, is a different experience. If it's someone taking pictures of the food, and if I go to the dining room, he's following me with his eyes like that, we know it's someone who's really interested by the food and the industry. And so we read the clientele and create experience. And again, that is evolving all the time. And that's the future of Le Bernardin, to be attentive and to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being so attentive. And thank you, Chef. Thank you for being with us. Tremendous gift, your presence today. Thank you.